Hello again, my little conscripts, and welcome to another Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, we shall be casting our ever-critical eye over another 10th edition Imperial Guard datasheet. And this time, we are going to be taking a look at the Wyvern. Now, up until this point in 10th edition, with the old index, I have not been very kind towards the Wyvern. I thought it was basically trash. But things may have changed for what in the past I have called the worst guard artillery in the game. And yes, that did include the Death Strike. I'm going to have to back this up. So without further ado, let's dive right into this thing. As is tradition, we're going to begin with an overview and review of the Wyvern stage sheet, and then towards the end of the video, we'll get into what might have changed for the Wyvern, why it's not looking quite as bad anymore. Let us begin with a cheeky gander at the Wyvern's stat line. It's essentially built on the Chimera chassis, very similar to the Basilisk. So we've got a movement of 10, but that's not overly important because typically this thing is going to be staying back and shooting from indirect fire at the enemy. Although if you do choose to use this in a more direct fire capacity, which is possible, then that movement will be somewhat relevant, and 10 inches is perfectly okay because it's the same as pretty much all guard vehicles. So it'll be able to keep up with the rest of the motor pool. Toughness 9 with a 3-up save and 11 wounds isn't the most durable guard vehicle, but in the grand picture of things, looking at a lot of other vehicles that are out there, it's actually fairly reasonable. Look, if someone wants to destroy this thing, they'll be able to. It's not a Lehman Russ, it's not a Rogal Dawn, it's not going to be handling las cannon blast left, right and centre, but you are going to need more than the pitter-patter of small arms fire to be able to bring it down. I would say one of the greatest defensive measures of the Wyvern is the fact that because it's been so shit for so long, that most people will underestimate it and probably shoot at something else. Leadership of 7 is okay, it's fine, it's the same as every other guard unit pretty much. Objective control of 3 is actually something to write home about though. It's not a huge deal. I don't want you getting the wrong end stick and thinking this thing is an OC machine. It's not. It's just slightly better than what you would expect, because Chimeras are only OC2, and yet this thing has got exactly the same stat line except it's OC3. What I quite like about it is if you've got like a couple of these things sat on an objective, whether they're pushing out to a mid one or they're holding a home one, you're typically going to have more objective control than squad of elite infantry. Most elite infantry are running around with OC1 per model, and there's 5 models in the unit. So you can sneakily get a bit more OC than your opponent might expect onto an objective. But it's a nice to have, it's not a war-winning maneuver. That just about covers the Wyvern stat line, but now let's get into the weapons and war gear. Each unit comes equipped with a heavy bolter, a quad storm shard mortar, and armored tracks. Your war gear options are pretty limited. You can swap the heavy bolter out for a heavy flamer, and you can just slap a hunter killer missile on it. I think you're always going to go for the hunter killer. Let's not beat around the bush with that one. It's a freebie. There's no point in not taking it. Heavy bolter versus heavy flamer debate. The natural inclination is to go with heavy bolter, isn't it? Because this is like a ranged weapon and it's a longer range weapon, and heavy flamers are more close range weapons. So I'd be inclined to go with the heavy bolter, but if someone slapped a heavy flamer on it, I wouldn't be totally against it either. Regardless, the heavy bolter, the heavy flamer, and the hunter killer missile are exactly the same as you find throughout the guard. The heavy bolter is a longer ranged anti-infantry weapon with a good amount of damage. The heavy flamer is a bit more swingy, it's a lot more short ranged, but it does ignore cover, and it also automatically hits. So it depends on if you want range, but maybe you just miss, or if you want to be automatically ignoring cover, but you might only fart out one shot. It's randomness. Hunter killer missiles are a 1-pop anti-tank weapon. On their own, terrible. But we're in the guard, so rarely are you running one hunter killer missile. Pretty much every vehicle in the guard gets one of these things. So when you unleash a huge barrage of them in one go, their damage can actually add up to be quite significant. But the main star of the show, the number one reason you should be considering taking the Wyvern, however you want to say it, is the Quad Storm Shard Mortar. This is the big multi-barreled boom boom gun that you see on it there. It is blast, which means that it will get +1 shot for every 5 models in the enemy unit. So if the enemy has 5 models, it would be 2d6 +1. If they have 10, 2d6 +2, so on and so forth. It's also indirect fire, which means that you do not need to be able to see your enemy units to be able to shoot them. So if they're hiding behind L-shaped ruins, which are everywhere, the Wyvern doesn't care. However, if you do shoot at indirect fire, you will suffer a -1 to hit penalty, and you can never hit better than on a 4+. So even if you give this thing like take aim and whatnot, it doesn't matter. It's still only going to be hitting on a 4+ at best when shooting indirectly. If you shoot directly at someone, just I can see you, so I'm going to shoot you, then you don't need to worry about that. The enemy doesn't get cover, there's no -1 to hit, and you can hit on whatever you can buff your ballistic skill up to. Somewhat uniquely for the Quad Storm Shard Mortar, it is twin linked. I don't think there's any other artillery in the guard which is twin linked. The Basilisk slows you down, the Manticore's shit, Bobs get sustained, artillery teams do battle shock, Death Strikes are a meme. I can't think of any other artillery which is twin linked. That's quite nice. Full rerolls to wound. But what will you be wounding, you ask? Infantry. This thing is a strictly anti-infantry weapon. 2d6 shots with blast. You're going to need blast to make it somewhat reliable. Ballistic skill 4+. Strength 5, AP 0, damage 1. The moment that this thing has to shoot at anything with a remotely good save or toughness value, it's not doing anything. And it's this strict anti-infantry profile which in the past has been my biggest criticism of the Wyvern. Because at the beginning of 10th edition, we were fairly convincingly in a vehicle and monster meta. Everyone was running vehicles, everyone was running monsters. Infantry was attacks that people took. Maybe you'd see Marine players with a couple of 5-man squads of Incestors, but the rest of it was... who remembers what's Ironstorm? Dreadnoughts, left, right and centre, Gladiator Lancers. This was a typical list, and it was the style of list that even if you weren't running Marines, you were running lots of vehicles one way or another. You're running lots of monsters one way or another. So the beginning of the edition, and for the first 18 months, we've been mostly in, I would say, a shooty meta, and we've been mostly in a vehicle and monster meta, but the truth is we're not in that meta anymore. Over the last 6 months, I have seen a rapid transformation in what is starting to be typical in people's lists and what is starting to do well in people's lists. We're very much in a melee meta, and we're very much in an elite infantry, just general infantry meta. We're not necessarily in a horde meta. Don't get me wrong, we're not in a horde meta, but people staging up infantry behind dense L-shaped ruins and then just charging through them and having a go turn, that is the norm. Whether you're in the US on GW terrain, or whether you're in the UK on UKTC, or whether you're in Europe on WTC terrain, the norm is assault armies everywhere, staging everywhere, infantry everywhere. And this, I think, at least in theory, because this is a theory craft video, but at least in theory, I think has given our humble Wyvern another chance. Firstly, its weapon is anti-infantry, so if we're encountering a lot more infantry, it's a lot more relevant. You're not trying to get wounds on 6s and desperately hoping your twin link can save you against a bunch of Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Now you're looking at pound this thing into a bunch of toughness 3 Eldar, wounding on 3s with twin linked. that's actually going to stack on a reasonable amount of wounds. And a lot of the infantry that's out there seems to be 3+ save. 2+ saves, this thing's absolutely buggered, and it goes back to being terrible. But 3+ saves, I think it can kind of grind its way through those, especially 1 wound 3+ saves like Eldar. You've also got a lot of demons on the rise as well. Now, demons do have a lot of big monsters as well, but they do have a lot of little guys as well. You can ally in some demons and some Chaos Space Marines together. That's kind of relevant for the Wyvern, because there's lots of little demons on 1 wound that I can go for, or there's some Marines, but it can still typically wound on 3s or 4 rerolls. It's just got more targets that it can actually do things to. But I know what you guys are thinking. It's lost heavy, so now if it shoots indirectly, it's going to be hitting on 5s, unless you want to waste an order on this thing, which, unless you're in combined arms, might be a limited resource that you have. It's not worth it, right? Well, it's a melee meta. I can't remember the last time someone shot back at me with something that actually scared me. And in truth, even if someone is shooting back at you, they're not going to be targeting the bloody Wyvern. They're going to go after your Russes, your Rogal Dawns, your Hellhounds. That's what they're going to be going after. So I don't think, earlier I said you wouldn't be moving this thing, but actually you might be being a bit more aggressive with it. I think this is a direct fire unit now. I don't know if you're going to waste putting an order on it. You might do. If it's direct firing, hitting on 3s, it's not too bad. But it's relatively cheap. It's at the moment, it's 110 points. Now, in terms of our artillery park, that is eminently affordable. It's the same as field ordnance batteries. And yeah, sure, field ordnance batteries may be strength 7, but they're not twin linked. They may be AP -1, but that basically means they're AP -none because of cover all the time. They're not as fast moving, and damage 2 is good. Don't get me wrong. Damage 2, I think, is the best bit about the fob. But what I like about the Wyvern is this suppression bombardment. I think this has become a bit more relevant. You see, previously in the index, we had a stratagem in combined arms that let us do -1 to hit to enemy units. If you shot them with some infantry, -1 to hit. And it was like, well, what's the Wyvern even bringing to the table if it's not going to be doing anything to enemy vehicles or monsters, and for the cost of 1 CP, you can essentially replicate its ability, suppression bombardment, which does -1 to hit to enemy non-monsters and vehicles. Well, now you can't do that anymore. Now the only way that I can think of off the top of my head, correct me if I'm wrong, that you can slap a -1 on the enemy outside of smoke, and which really you're putting on your units like smoke and smoke screen, is suppression bombardment. So I think the way you use this thing is you don't treat it as an indirect fire unit. You treat it as a direct fire unit, something which is a debuffer to the opponent. Because what's really big about this is it's -1 from the hit roll anytime they make an attack, not just ranged. See, in your shooting phase, after this model of shot, select one enemy unit that was hit by one or more of those attacks made with this weapon's quad, storm shard, mortar. Till the start of your next shooting phase, that enemy unit is suppressed. While a unit is suppressed, each model in that unit makes attacks, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Not shooting attack, just subtract 1 from the hit roll. Now, smoke is great, but doesn't help you in melee. Smoke shells are great, don't help you in melee. Stealth is great, doesn't help you in melee. This is the only thing that we can do to go to all of those 8-bound corn berserkers and other mad stuff that's running around. We can just be like, -1 to hit. And sure, they've got blood tithe or blessings or call it, everyone will call it now. But there's a lot of instances where you're going to be making world eaters hit on 4s in melee. I don't know about you, but that actually sounds pretty decent. However, and it is a big however, I guess the big question is this all good on paper, but does it translate to the tabletop? At the end of the day, we only have a finite amount of points in a list, 2,000. And if you're spending points on this, you're not spending it on something else. Maybe you're not spending it on other artillery. Maybe this is cutting into the, nearly the whole cost of a Hellhound. I mean, for only 35 points more, you can get a Lemurus Vanquisher. And I suppose you could say, is it better to debuff an enemy unit, or is it better to just destroy an enemy unit? It's tricky. I think that the Wyvern has started to look a bit more appealing. I think it does have a bit more potential. I guess the big question mark hanging over it is it enough to change the unit's reputation? Is it enough to get people looking at it again? And is it enough for it to be able to compete with points that could go elsewhere to other units that could just do a lot more in a more straightforward manner? I'm not sure. But as always, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you think that the Wyvern is worth another look and start thinking outside the box with it? Or do you think that right now, guard, bit of a tricky spot. We just need to be focusing on what works and keeping things simple. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to go ahead and smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bonbon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.